can make him fly also.
Charlotte Soccer Show, John Hayes, Danny Brams. It's a thirsty Thursday evening. Cheers to you, Danny Brams. We're presented by Hopfly Brewing Company here on Charlotte Soccer Show. And we've got our first match preview episode, Danny Brams.
Feeling good, baby. Feeling good on a thirsty Thursday, drinking coffee at night because I gotta get hyped up. I just got off work. Now I got to get ready to go into this mix. You've been working all day. You went and talked to the gaffer today. You and Dino got familiar with each other a little bit more. You know, every step of the journey here is we get to learn more and more about this. And you spent some time with the gaffer today, and I can't wait to hear about it. And you graciously did me the favor, Johnny, of editing all the best things that he had to say into little digestible sound bites that we get to play for the Tifos here and then react to. How great is that?
So there's two different ways you can get a press conference from the gaffer on the show. We'll do episodes like this every now and again, but you'll also get decoding the press conference, where Danny Brams has a great window into what is actually being said at a press conference. Cheers to the Tifos. Cheers to Ash. Way to come in hot on a Thursday evening, really late Thursday evening. If you're out in Berlin, you've been hanging in Germany. Greg Franco checking in as well. Thanks to everybody here on the live stream. We're live, of course, on this first match week of the season, Danny Brams. So I'm just going to say that over and over again. It is the first match week of the season. How pumped are you for Saturday at Hopfly, and then, of course, the match on Saturday night?
I mean, Johnny, we've been talking for several months now about presented by Hopfly, but there's probably some people that don't know exactly what that means. Saturday, you're going to find out exactly what presented by Hopfly means. Show up at the party, 4:00. We're going to be there well earlier in advance. So if you want to show up early and have a few pregame for the pregame with us, we'll be there setting stuff up. Official start times around 4:00. We're going to be up and at them, just harassing people that if you're walking by on the street and you weren't planning to come to Hopfly, I'm going to make sure that you change your plans and come in. And so much excitement and adventure that's going to be there, and all leading up to a soccer match, Johnny. It's our first match of the year. I can't wait. We never lose to New York City, and we're not going to lose again this Saturday. I'm looking forward to a great start in the season with a win for once.
I've been dreaming about 60,000 people at the Keep, the opening night of Dean Smith's era here at Charlotte. I think it's going to be fantastic. And speaking of Dean Smith, we're going to hear from him shortly about this massive match against NYCFC, a team that, like you said, Danny Brams, Charlotte FC has really, really taken care of business against, especially at the Keep. Some really good moments from Dean at the press conference today. And I think one of the most exciting part of tonight's show is Danny Brams' 11. We've got Danny Brams' 11 heading into Saturday. I like the way it looks.
I mean, it was easy. We've only had, 4 months of build up here. And if we can't get this 11 right, we're never going to get an 11 right, obviously. Right. I mean, because we've had so much ability to sort of study what's happening on a granular step by step, by inch, by nanometer step here in the preseason. That having said, Dino did promise to shock us. So there's a decent chance that I don't get all 11 of 11 right, but I do feel pretty confident about what I went with. But I will admit, I didn't make any changes after today's press conference, which again, I've been sort of head down focused in my whole other 9-to-5 world today, just parachuting back to, crazy Charlotte FC guy with the missing Adidas stripes. And I'm just kind of hearing there's rumors out there. Apparently there's someone that I had not even considered to be a starter that might actually be a starter on Saturday. And you know better than me on that.
Well, there's a birthday today celebrated on Thursday, February 22nd.
Actually, can I go with, they say it's your birthday. Da-na-na-na-na-na-na.
Yes. There was a player mentioned today, Danny Brams, at the press conference. Nymphasia Berkimas, somebody that is is it a wonder kid or a wonder kind or a wonder kind?
Wunderkind. I believe it's a Wunderkind, if you're going to say it 100% correctly, but that's in the original German. If you want to just go with wonder kid. I think that works pretty well for an American ear and tongue. So I think Nimfasha is a wonder kid. Is a 16-year-old still a kid? I don't know. I don't want to, there's everything's all about labels in the modern American society. So I don't want to throw out any labels that are going to piss anybody off, but he's a wonder kid to me for sure.
That's definitely one of my favorite storylines in Ted Lasso, when Nate had it wrong and he said it the wrong way. And for the rest of the entire series, he tried to convince people that I actually said it the right way. It was a great underlying story in the great show.
That's Nate in a nutshell, right?
Absolutely. So Dean Smith, Nimfasha, Burkima's 16.
Starboy. How about Starboy as a label? I mean, that's kind of, it's, again, like.
Is he good, Danny
He's
Brown?
getting better.
Yeah. I've been a bit disappointed that it was his birthday today and he didn't bring any cakes in. But then he's only just turned 16, so I can forgive him for that. But we've all wished him a happy birthday. But yeah, he's been really bright around us. Belied his years, to be honest. He hasn't looked out of place training with us, which is really pleasing. He's got a really good football knowledge. He's direct. He runs at people. So yeah, he's been certainly one that has pleasantly surprised me.
It's a big statement about a player and who is young, who is on this roster, a player that played for the United States men's national team this past offseason. What the tournament was that, Danny Brams? Was it the
under 17,
20?
right? Under 17 World Cup. Yeah.
Under
17 World Cup. We advanced out of the group stage, lost to Italy in the knockouts, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, who then went on to the semis, I think.
So it's really interesting before this first match.
Scored a few bangers. Scored a few
match
bangers.
Week of the season. We were talking about the starting 11, who's going to be in it. And Dean Smith was very honest. He said he's got a feeling that he's got 9 out of 11 guys potentially in his mind, and he's trying to figure it out. So there's some dogged reporters, Danny. There's some really good reporters at these press conferences. And trust me, I'm sitting back. I'm just kind of taking notes from some of the GOATs, if you will. And of course, Carol Walton, our friend from the Charlotte Ledger, here she is with the perfect question.
You mentioned having to sleep on a couple decisions. Is one of those maybe using a 16-year-old in the starting lineup against 65, in front of 65,000 people?
It could be.
And speaking of that 16-year-old, he's only 16. That's not his fault. So maybe not as physically developed as the more mature players. Do you think that might be something defenses look to exploit, or you don't think it could be a factor for him?
I remember Wayne Rooney making his debut at the same age, and he scared the life out of some of them defenses. So, if we do choose to play Nympha, then hopefully he can do the same.
Great. Thank you so much.
No worries. Thanks, Carol.
It's the perfect question, Danny, and it's a loaded answer about a 16-year-old who could potentially make his debut for Charlotte FC in MLS on Saturday night.
If you watch Premier League soccer at all in the last 5 or 6 years, you're very familiar with the commercial that airs over and over and over again. Ladies and gentlemen, 16-year-old Wayne
Rooney. Yes.
His first goal in the Premiership. It's like I've seen that thing like plays in my head all the time. And that's not the first time I've heard Dean make that comparison either. He's dropped that Rooney name before whenever someone brings up Nympha's age. And I don't know. I mean, he's certainly in consideration. He talked about having to sleep on it. So while we're sitting here taping this, hopefully Dean is setting down for a nice little cup of evening tea before he nods off to bed and gets a lot of rest, because he's got to rest up too. But the thing of it is like, I know the 2 spots. We'll see my projected 11 momentarily, but I know the 2 spots that he says he's still thinking about, because they're the last 2 spots that I was able to fill in. Yeah.
Right wing and defensive midfield. Is that what you're thinking about?
Yes, sir. Correct. Everything else is locked in, I think.
Well, I don't think that everything's locked in for the roster when you think of a long runway point of view. In the short term on Saturday, Danny, sure. Dean Smith
I'm just talking about Saturday.
Has a roster and he can choose. But I thought this was a great answer to a question about that roster, right? We're leading the show tonight with a 16-year-old player, somebody that we really like to celebrate, somebody that no matter what happens on Saturday night, just to see him play and make his debut for Charlotte FC would be a really fun experience and a really great night to celebrate that in and of itself. But Danny, this is a business, and the reason why Nympha has to start is because there's a lot going on.
Yeah, well, I would just say that Nymphasia, I don't think but the fact that he's in consideration to start tells me he will definitely see time. I can boldly forecast that he will make his MLS debut on Saturday, whether it's in the starting lineup or as a substitute to come in. So depending on game state, if we're up huge, maybe it doesn't happen, or if, in a 1-1, maybe it doesn't happen.
And here is why.
I feel we probably need 2 or 3 more high quality players that will enhance the squad. I think the biggest difference probably between here and the UK, where I was before, is when you bring a player in, you can usually play him again straight away on Saturday. Whereas we brought in Diani, and he's got to wait now for that sequence of getting his visa and going back, and then waiting for his passport. I've not had to deal with that before, so that's something new to me. But yeah, we just need some players that we've been negotiating with and working on to get them into the club.
It's a big statement, Danny.
Welcome to the world of getting harassed by United States government bureaucracy, Dino. Hope it wasn't the worst experience, and it's definitely not going to be your last.
There's no doubt, and I think the visa process is a really slow one. And Diani, the new defensive midfielder who signed from France this offseason, is unavailable to play because that visa process. He is unable to work yet in the United States, so he won't be on the pitch on Saturday. And ultimately, I think as excited people are for Saturday, I think the question was a good one about the state of the roster, and Dean Smith he's remained consistent, Danny. Mm-hmm. Weeks and weeks continue to go by, and Dean Smith says we have 1 or 2 more players to add at really high profile positions. So I wanted to really celebrate Nymphasia, on the show today. I just really wanted to layer it with some reality. That is, there's a reason why a player that is 16 years old, a player that who should typically coming up through the academy playing for Crown Legacy, has a chance in this first game against the season, is because the roster is not complete. Mm-hmm. And Dean Smith is not afraid to give somebody a chance.
Yeah, I mean, it's fun to think about, like, wow, our 16-year-old wunderkind could show up in the starting 11. That's fun to think about on like a sort of a wish casting level, like amazing. What if he comes in like Brian Romero and scores the game, earns the game-winning penalty against Chelsea? But ultimately, the sign of a team that's starting a 16-year-old at the right wing in the third home opener of their campaign, of their club franchise history, that's not the sign of like a club that you would expect to like really go super far. Shout out to Hub Likes, who says, I got no problem with Nympha getting a start. I don't either on Saturday, but I don't want to be like forcing him out there week after week after week starting right wing. We need to bring in players. Everybody knows that. The play went out for Luciano Rodriguez. He's still someone we might bring in the summer. Who knows? He's that type of player that will probably continue after. Shout out Jono, one of the Tifos who's in the chat, saying start Nympha, then sign Luciano. He's reading my mind. He do it all. Like Jono and I are tracking. We're on wavelengths right here. But ultimately, we got to go get some players. And I don't think we can wait. Well, I mean, we might have to. Unfortunately, is the issue, because like the club's made it very clear they're not going to rush into a DP signing. Every single day that passes, it's just less and less likely until the next window that a DP that we would want is available. So you do the math.
So I think it's time to unveil on the show Danny Brams starting 11 Saturday. It's the first 11 of the season. We're gonna have fun with that. Of course, remember the show is presented by Hotfly and Danny Brams. Let's just make your 11 tonight presented by Hotfly. Why not? And
exactly.
You can come by the tailgate at 4:00 on Saturday before the match. You can debate Danny Brams. Is this what it looks like? This is Danny Brams' starting 11. Can you talk to folks who are listening to the show, whether you're listening late Thursday night or Friday on the way to work, or Friday in rush hour traffic in Charlotte? And by the way, you can listen all day Saturday too, not into a kick until 7:30. Danny Brams, what do you think about this lineup, and why do you have these players as your 11?
So I think the back line is like locked in for the time being for the first phase of this season, let's call it. Definitely for stage 1 from our 9 stages of the campaign, and maybe even for stage 2 as far as Privet being back there. I foresee a world, and I think it actually should be Melanda. I think the one thing I goofed on this was Melanda on the right, Privet on the left would be better, would be a little bit more formal. But in any case, I expect Pedro or Diop to sort of, or even potentially Tuiloma if he gets healthy quickly, to displace Privet. But then again, I would have expected that to happen in camp, and it didn't happen. So shout out to Andrew Privet, who's like holding down his spot. I think it seems pretty much a go to everyone that has been watching, and that if we go off of that last preseason game in Coachella against Minnesota, that we would think Privet and Melanda will be the pairing. Yere was sent out by the team to go do media. He easily slots into the starting lineup for me. Byrne, I think, stays ahead of Lindsay. And then this is where, and then Deagra, obviously the 10, Vargas, obviously the left wing, Copetti, obviously the 9, Westwood, obviously the 8 here, the box to box. But the two things that Dino will be sleeping on tonight, and that I have the hardest time, and that we're open to debate, and that you can weigh in, John, the Tifos can weigh in here in the chat. I've got Urso starting at next to Westwood. I would have had Diani there if it wasn't, and I probably, if we hadn't signed Urso. But even if Diani didn't have the visa thing going on, I would have put Urso there over Diani, and that's why for the same reason that I put him over Petkovic, which is league experience, a league opener at home, a game that Dean Smith's got to win, a game for reputation and just to keep the vibes going. This train is rolling so nice. The hype is built so nice. If we go have a slip up on the road, that's one thing, but you'd hate for this train to crash off the tracks here at home in the home opener, because it's been such a fun ride so far in the preseason. So I think you put the experience out there. I love Nicola, great. I can't wait to just see him thrive and flourish and grow in this league. So I think ultimately we grow into a role where a month from now, Petkovic is starting, Diop or Pedro is starting, maybe, although Privet could hold it down. He's been doing it. And then I've got Arfield starting against New York City, but I don't see Arfield starting much longer at all. And I could even be wrong about that Arfield starting. Casey Williams weighs in. Arfield over Tavares. Again, I'm leaning on experience. I'm saying Dino runs an experienced 11 out. So that's sort of my overriding philosophy behind those choices. But if he went with Petkovic and or Tavares, I ain't mad at you, to quote the late great Tupac Shakur. And I think that it would be somewhat surprising, but it could still be effective.
Something else that happened in Charlotte today when it comes to soccer, Christopher Madera chimes in. He says, got Copa America tickets today, Danny Brams. Looking forward to the Charlotte FC match on Saturday. Can't wait to get back to the bank. Let's go. Those tickets are coming up as well. I think your 11, Danny, it's a good 11, and we'll see what happens. I don't necessarily. I'm not going to disagree with anything that you have there. I think one thing when it comes to this first match and the 11 is concerned. I think anything's up for grabs. The fact that we're talking about Ninfasha, Berkimas in the Berkimas in the first 11 of the year is exactly what Dean said before the season. Remember what he said?
He said, if you're good enough, you're old enough, if you haven't heard enough times. So I got a question for you. Let me ask you this. So let's listen to the Tifos, because the Tifos, they make the show what it is. Abram Kuchecki, if I've got that right, Abram Kuchecki has been chiming in for the chat since we started here today. Tavares absolutely getting the start. Westward did an interview and said Tavares was the most surprising. Think he gets in. That's that's good intel. I could see it. Again, the reason I think it's going to be is because of experience. But if Tavares starts, sounds like I got the pronunciation right. Thank you, Abram. I appreciate that chime in. I always want to make sure I honor people's names the way they want to hear them heard. As far as Tavares, get him in. Fine. I have no beef with him starting at all. But like my question to you, John, based on what you heard there today from the gaffer, not necessarily what Westwood might have said, and as Hub Likes points out, Dino said expect a couple of surprises. If it's not Arfield, who's more likely for you, the right wing, Tavares or Berkimas?
That's a great question, Danny Rams. I think it's Berkimas at this point. That would be my answer for sure. I think
a little birthday present for the boy.
It could certainly happen. And Tavares is somebody I think Yuri Tavares is a player that is a now a first team player. He signed his contract, I believe, this week with Charlotte FC as a first team player. So I think his future is bright here, and it just doesn't seem like there's buzz around this player starting in the wing position. But who knows? Anything's up for grabs. Anything could happen. I want to be very clear about this as we're talking about the wing positions, Danny. Substitutions, let's not be bashful about it. If you got to throw in some new offensive players at 55 minutes, do it. If you've got to do it at the 68th minute mark, do it. You've got 5 subs. But let's see how many of these wing players can get into the match on Saturday night and who wants to step up, score a goal, and get into the lineup against Vancouver the next Saturday in MLS play.
And we know that Patrick's going to play. I don't think Enzo goes the full 90 here. I think Patrick definitely gets some run. I think Petkovic gets some run if he doesn't play. So there's definitely some guys that are going to be itching and raring to go. There's going to be some guys that wake up on Saturday morning before they even get to the keep, and they're like, I know I'm not starting today, but I'm going to make an impact today. And I think like that's good. That's the attitude adjustment that Dino has fostered. This is a great comment, and I want to shout out Casey Williams. Our TIFOs are so smart, because I almost literally said this earlier, and I just didn't slip it in. I kind of moved into a different direction, but like, if Ninfa does start, the people in the stadium are going to go crazy, just like Romero at Chelsea, because we have a very high IQ soccer fans. Even though we don't get a lot of credit from the MLS prerogative folks, we do have a lot of smart soccer fans. I remember when Romero stood up to sub in, everyone got crazy because they know, and like we know when our young, academy and next pro products are getting their chances. It was great to see the crowd salute Romero that day, and I hope that Ninfa would get a similar salute, whether sub or starter.
You mentioned who would be told and when they would start. I think a really fun moment from today's press conference when our friend Bridget McCall from the Queen's Pitch podcast asked Dean about the center back pairing.
Do you have a set lineup for the 2 starting CDs yet?
Yeah, pretty much in my head I do, yeah.
I mean, if you can tell.
I wouldn't tell any of you because I haven't told them yet. So I always have to tell my players before I tell anybody else.
They don't read our stuff.
A nice moment in the press conference today. Good question by Bridget. She was pressing him. She was pressing him on the center back pairing, and it was a fun moment that came out of it.
Imagine a Southern belle trying to get information out of a distinguished English gentleman. It's just like the layers and layers and layers of social nicety there. I can only imagine it must have been a fun moment in that room for sure.
I was in that room, Danny Brams, and I felt the need to ask about the opponent, right? NYCFC. Charlotte FC did not play NYCFC in the Coachella Invitational, but NYCFC was there. So I had a chance to ask Dean Smith if he had a chance to scout NYCFC, and he certainly did.
They're a good team. They've got some really good players. I met Nick Cushing, who was there, Brian Eastick as well, who works for the City Group and coaches to coaches, so to speak. So I know Brian really well. So I saw a few of their games, and they look potent. They want to press you high. They want to be really quick in transition. But they're comfortable on the ball as well. So it makes for a tricky first game. I think all first games are, because you actually don't know who's going to come out of the traps the quickest. But hopefully it'll be us.
I'm starting to recognize Dean Smith's crutch at this point about the traps. He's always talking about getting out of those traps. Could you imagine being a player on the squad right now? How many times you've heard that in the last couple months? Oh my goodness! It's like they're going to sleep in bed. Ashley Westwood's going to sleep this evening, and he's thinking, "Got to get out of the traps. Got to get out of the traps on Saturday." And he's really drilled that into their mind. Danny Brams, you're somebody who is really tuned into MLS, and how about this? You just appeared on the Full-Time Roundup podcast, previewing the MLS as a whole. Tell us about NYCFC and what you think about this club as it comes now to Charlotte for its opening match of the 2020.
Well, they're a club that has some big turnover, big impact signings in the attack. They just brought in a young Serbian kid. Probably got this kid's name right, but it's like Matanjevic or something like that. And I'll have to look that one up. Forgive me for not having it off the top of my head. But as the Tifos point out in the chat, full roster turnover. Hopefully they're going to be lacking some chemistry. That's because they did bring in some talent, but I think they're going to be slow to gel. And the fact, if we were going there, I would feel a little bit worse about it, but I feel pretty good at home. Much like Captain West, I'm taking my cues from the captain, and I feel confident that we're going to get the win, to take some words out of his mouth from earlier this week. But what I think is that we're just going to really be able to take advantage of, I think we'll probably concede because they did bring in a lot of talented guys in, 2 brand new attackers, DPs that are going to be a little bit of a handful for our guys. They're unknown quantities in this league. And I think it's going to be kind of a cagey, like both sides figuring each other out and finding some openings. So I don't think we got a clean sheet, but I do think we'll be able to outscore them. And so I'm seeing, I don't know if I want to give away my prediction here, but I'm seeing a 3-2 win is my scoreline prediction. I think a lot of fireworks at the Keep. Thank you for Jorge Torres, quick on the Google there. Jovan Mijatovic is how I would say that. Hopefully that's pronounced correctly, but he's pretty good, just from some of the highlight reels I've seen and just knowing what he brings out in Serbia. One of those guys, I was like, hey, how'd this, under 23 designated player type guy from Serbia end up going to New York instead of coming here? Z, come on, man.
Yeah.
But maybe we'll get a chance to ask him that someday. But all I can say is we have to take advantage of whatever esprit de corps that Dino has been able to really build in this team over the last 2 months has shown forth in Coachella. And if he can carry that forward onto the pitch on Saturday, I think it's going to be nice for a explosive home opening win.
We're due for a home opening win. And somebody asked Dean Smith about the fact that Charlotte FC has now played 2 home openers and lost both of them. And he brushed it off and said, hey, I wasn't part of those staffs and I wasn't here. So I'm not even thinking about that. And in that answer from Dean Smith about NYCFC, when I asked him specifically about that club and the opponent on Saturday, something that was interesting was that he said, Danny, that it was a tricky matchup, right? This was the first time that I really felt like all week somebody within the Charlotte FC locker room said, hey, this is going to be difficult. Because remember, Ashley Westwood came out and he said, hey, we're confident that we're going to win. And I've heard him say that a couple times now. And Yuri Urinen was talking about clean sheets now, a run of them for Charlotte FC, 4 clean sheets in a row for the club at this point, I believe it is.
It feels good.
Now Dean Smith finally kind of throws a blanket on that fire and he says, this is going to be tricky, right? So when you head to the Keep on Saturday night, when you're thinking about this opening match against NYCFC, even though Charlotte FC has had so much success against this club, it's going to be tricky. And this is going to be the first night out for a new team under a new manager in a new era, Danny, of Charlotte soccer.
And I think part of that grows out of, yes, we did have the fun preseason. Everything went well in Coachella. We had kept 4 clean sheets, never lost a match. But if you remember what Dean and Westwood both said pitch side right after that, when Will Martin was interviewing out there, they were not happy with that last match. The 0-0, the inability to score against Minnesota was kind of it was a little bit of a thorn in the side for both those guys to end the whole tournament out there. I think they would have liked to see some goals go in, and they might be less inclined to give sort of those ambiguous sound bites this week. But to me, that's good because the coach and the captain need to be they need to be nitpicking at this point. We can't be like it's not all sunshine and rainbows. Like, I'm glad they're treating this as a tricky match. I'm going to treat it as one that I think we have a really good shot to win, and I'm confident. But I need the guys who are in charge of keeping people's heads right. I need them keeping people's heads right.
Yeah. And speaking of keeping people's heads right, Dean Smith does that, Danny, and he does that outside the locker room. I wanted to show you this moment from today's press conference so you could get a window into how, I guess, much of a perfectionist Dean Smith is, and how, I tried to, place a microphone up on the desk near the manager, and quite frankly, it wasn't placed well enough.
I'll let cameras get set.
That's Dean Smith's for you, Danny. It was not placed well enough. He got that microphone spun around perfectly, right on the proper edge, and he was ready for the press conference.
He's like, this mother effer just went up and set a microphone down, pointing away from me. He's not going to hear anything I have to say. Amazing.
Yeah, so he's on top of his business even before the press conference.
That's amazing. It simply won't do.
Yeah, like that will not do.
Amazing.
Amazing. A really fun time at the press conference today. And he's somebody. Somebody called it. I think I saw a comment earlier about this manager being a breath of fresh air, and I think that's the big takeaway as we head into this match weekend, and as we head into, Danny, what is supposed to be an absolute epic day, and it starts right here at Hopfly, the tailgate this Saturday, 4:00. We're going to be there, Danny. We're going to be there with our friends Rare and Retro Soccer as well. And we're going to be there with Glory Days Apparel. We're going to be there with the Sunshine Shop. And here's the good news. If you're looking at the forecast right now, you're going to see potentially some rain Saturday afternoon. Whether that comes or not, the Hopfly warehouse where they actually brew the beer, that's the rain plan. And by the way, that's where all the away watch parties will be happening as well. So you get a sneak peek into what's coming up on March 2nd at Hopfly. Hopfly Danny Brams is the home of soccer in this soccer city. And it's going to be a really, really fun Saturday as we head over there and we do our first tailgate of the season and really just get after it and have a great time.
Soccer in South End, baby. I can't wait. I keep saying it that this is going to be our tailgate. And again, we're not trying to like throw shade at the official tailgate. But we want the official tailgate people to just bring us there. We're going to be at Hopfly, but fire up your stream when the starting 11 drops. When we finally do figure out who Dino's gone with for that first starting 11, we will pop up live. We have our camera set up there at Hopfly. If you're there, you got a good chance to come and be a surprise unannounced guest on the show. You can even crash our thing, although we will have hopefully some bouncers. My cat Crackers will be bouncing, so he will not associate any riffraff. Ash Hamrick says, save some fun for me till I get back. Ash, you will be back from Germany sooner than you know, my friend, and we can't wait to see you there. But yeah, if you're going to the official tailgate, if you can't make it over to Hopfly, if you're just like, I got to keep it official, we get that. We have no problem with that. But just turn on the stream, and then you'll get a little bit of taste of both worlds. But if you really know what's good for you, come to Hopfly and hang out with us for sure, because we will make it worth your while for sure. How about the worldwide tifos? We had global tifos. We had Ash Hamrick watching out in Berlin, Germany. We got April Sandoval, president of Tifos West Coast chapter, watching on the flight from LA. She's flying out here for the season opener. We know April's going to be at Hopfly. There's probably some chapter meetings going up in the upper room. Charlotte, Brazil checks in. Pedro Enrique Mendez, what's up, man? If you're watching in Brazil right now, we absolutely love you. And then, John, if you could just indulge me one time. If you have anything more to say, I'll let you say it. Can you play that Dino clip again one time? Another time, because it was just so freaking funny for anybody that just.
Wait, the one where he just schools me on my microphone?
Yeah. I gotta see that.
I'll let cameras get set.
Just too good. Yeah. And as Brandon Davis says, Latanzio would have just flicked that mic right off the table.
That's good. I'm going to take a screenshot of him just staring down at it.
Yeah. What is this? Come on.
No, but he's the new manager. He's Dean Smith. It's his first match Saturday night at the Keep. He said that he has 20 tickets that for family and friends, people that he's bringing to the match on Saturday night. So he's going to have a big match for himself personally, not just professionally at the Keep on Saturday night. I asked him about his match day routine. I said, hey, coach, what are you going to be doing all day Saturday? It's a 7:30 kick. And he said, well, ask me next week. I'm not sure yet. And we'll figure out what the match day routine is like, you know.
I mean, maybe not 18, maybe just 9. Yeah.
So it's the Charlotte Soccer Show. I'm John Hayes. He's Danny Brams. As always, Danny, I'm so excited to see you this weekend. I'm so excited to see all the TIFOs. Thanks for everybody for checking in live on the stream tonight and dropping in with their questions. We're going to be back when?
We're going to be back on Saturday live and then Sunday for the post-game wrap-up. Sundays at Hot Flies are also huge because we will be doing a live stream there in the afternoon, evening. Times might be a little fungible, but yeah, it could be a good time. So.
Well, I think that's the one thing I just wanted to mention to people is that the Sunday show, the recap show, we're going to debut our new contributor here on Charlotte Soccer Show. Anna Whitty is a soccer analyst for ESPN. She calls NWSL games as well. She's a North Carolina native, a Division I player as well. She's going to make her debut on the show this Sunday at Hot Flies. So we're going to get some analysis from her after the match. So, Danny, you and I have been kind of pretending to be tactical analysts or analysts, I should say, on the show. We're actually going to have an analyst on the show this Sunday who's going to get the job done for real.
It's all part of the expanded coverage, baby. We couldn't do it without the TIFOs pushing us to do more and more. Like the fact that people show up just makes us want to well, what else can we do? Well, what else can we do? What else can we do? So that's been the mission since the start. And it's amazing how far we've come and how far people have come with us, for sure.
It's the Charlotte Soccer Show. I'm John Hayes. He's Danny Brams. Subscribe on YouTube. Like this episode. It does a huge favor for us. Maybe hit the YouTube algorithm, get in front of other people to learn about Charlotte soccer and this beautiful soccer city that we have and the incredible time we're going to have this weekend. So as always, Danny Brams.
For the match day, baby.
It's for the crown.